platforms.
Yes, good morning. It's time for Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. My name is Omobola Sandra, and we're going to be looking through the front pages of our dailies this morning. We have The Punch, The Nation, The Guardian, and of course Vanguard newspaper. All right, and we have quite some interesting stories across all the papers, most notably collection of PVCs. There seems to be some issues surrounding the PVCs, and there are reactions also as regards that particular one. And I wonder, a lot of people have come up with different complaints as regards why they have not been able to pick up their PVCs, but then we have to keep pushing out the information. We have to keep pushing out that particular that particular situation, that please go out and pick your PVC. Very, very important. All right, by 6th of June, that will be by Friday. Yes, that will be by Friday. The collection of PVCs will be devolved to the wards. All right, that should be closer to us. So those that have been complaining as regards distance or as regards long queues and crowds and whatnot, hopefully that should have been resolved by then. And the good thing is that INEC has made it so easy. The collection of PVC is Mondays through Sundays, okay, at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So there is no weekend. Every day all through the week you can go to the INEC local government offices as for now till January 6th and pick up your PV where you are staying, all right, or where you registered your PVC. Major trending stories this morning, okay, but then aside from that, we still have the economy situation in this country, and that's why we keep looking at it. Yesterday in the studio, the past 20 something years and focus, where we pick one or two of the trending stories from the papers and then we put some spotlight on it. All right, but in the meantime, let's look through the major trending stories across the papers this morning. I will be starting with the Guardian newspaper, but before then, I welcome Fuad Sahid onto the program. Good morning, Fuad.
Good morning, Sandra.
And the major headline from your Naira budget. All right, and the rider spending jacked up by 1.32 trillion. We had that conversation last week where they justified it by saying, for the census or the proposed census, national census that will be happening this year, and also for the attacks on INEC offices and replenishing vandalized assets of INEC, which was the reason, yes, items, thank you, which was the reason for the jack up on the budget. And we also have here new expenditure contains unfunded 553.46 billion naira. Okay, and then we also have here Yusuf, figure too high for government's revenue mobilization capacity, meaning that we are not making enough for us to fund that budget. That's what that particular story is saying. We also have here signing indicates improved fiscal culture, says Ife. We'll see if we actually do have an improved fiscal culture. I don't know if we do. Probably there's something that they are seeing within in-house there that we on the outside can't see. But then we also have here 2015 to 2023 fiscal deficit may surpass 43 trillion naira. So that is the entire Buhari administration. The entire Buhari administration saying that the total fiscal deficit may surpass 43 trillion naira. And then finally, another rider is federal government to spend 1.8 trillion naira to service unsecuritized 22.7 trillion naira CBN's overdraft. That is also still pending. So while the implementation of the new budget could kick off, as it has become a legal document now that the president has signed it off, it will be recalled that the Senate had approved the president's request for extension of the 2022 appropriation law implementation to the end of the first quarter. That is to enable the president to finish some ongoing capital projects, many of which 80% are completed according to this report. But then there's still the concern over the fact that we're about in deficits, and now we've signed 21 trillion naira into law, and we also have the fact that we have That's okay. We have a revenue problem. Yes, that's another issue that we need to look at. We have a revenue problem. We are not generating enough money for us to be able to properly fund this particular budget. And then we also have the fact that, looking deep into it, we also looked at the fact that what exactly is being expended on what. And we had also take another separate large chunk of what the government is. So there's a whole lot surrounding this budget, but then apparently, despite the fact that there was some issues with the supplementary budget, the appropriation bill and all of that, everything, whether we like it or not, has been signed into law. So Fuad, with this current administration, with this current administration going out of office by May this year, what would you say as regards this particular budget? Do you think, or what would you say that the current administration is thinking, leaving all of this burden behind for the incoming administration, knowing fully well that by May 29 this year they cease to hold office?
Well, too many figures to deal with this morning, and so that we don't get our listeners too confused with some of these figures. I think the best thing that we can do, Sandra, is to just mention it as it is, that we have made budgetary provisions that we don't have money to fund. That's the bottom line of everything you've read this morning, and that's the reality of Nigeria at this time. It's just living in illusion. When you live in illusion, it's just like when you sit down, you are not doing anything, you are not doing the right thing. And then you begin to think of, I'm going to build a house in Banana Island. I want to have a mansion in the Bahamas. And there you are. Your hands are folded. You are not doing anything. You are not waking up in the morning, eating the road, and doing all the necessary things that can give you that kind of fun. So the reality is that we have a budget, for me, that is more of an illusion, an imaginary budget. That
some people would even call it some people, sorry to cut you, some people will say, that is just probably because it's a normal thing that they sign budget every year, so let's just sign something. So it's just a ritual.
When you just put some figures together, exactly, there is a ritual, so God bless you, Sandra, a yearly ritual. Just put some. That's why even if you look at deadline, irreconcilable, there are still figures that are not tallying,
Yes.
But let's just do this thing, and they are still back and forth about what is budgeted for what, who added what, already or part. All of these things are still there. So we just have a situation where it's a ritual. We just have to do what we need to do every year, and that's why I always say that, look, if we can get data on budget performance in the last 20 years, Sandra, you'll be shocked. That even the provisions we make in this budget, what is the performance index of the budget every year? You will be shocked that we may not even have a 20% performance index for each of the budget that we pass every year. So again, here we are, over 12 trillion deficit. And even the ones that we think we will be able to raise revenue to fund, the part of the budget that we think we will be able to raise enough revenue to fund, is still on the fact that we are putting the oil benchmark at, I think, about $70 per barrel. If it doesn't happen, what then do we do? So the reality is that Nigerians should brace up. Things, we don't want to sound alarmist, but things.
No, but I think as part of the budget, I think they moved that to $75 though. That's been moved up.
If it doesn't happen, Sandra, who says it's going to happen? And the fact again is this: even if we are able, if the reality of $75 per barrel happens, if it happens eventually, what about oil theft? We are still struggling between 1 million barrels per day, 1.5 million per day. Here we have a quota of 2.5 million barrels per day. We are not even able to do half of it. Really. So the reality is that I think Nigerians should just brace up. And where you are in all of this confusion and all of the uncertainties that we face, you have the presidential candidate, major of them still saying, I'm going to remove subsidy, whether anybody protests or not, I don't care. Those kind of statements for me get me worried. And Nigeria should be prepared. Because the reality is that there is no money. Any government that comes in now will be looking for money everywhere and anywhere. And because we are running a country, or we'll be running governments where, it's the losing mentality that we will continue to pass along, they'll be looking for money, and the immediate thing they want to do is to tax the people. reduce subsidy and all of those things, and it will have direct impact on the living standard of ordinary Nigerians. So we should base up, and that's why we say that look, in all of the endorsements, distractions, and all of that, let us ask it up so we know where we are going. It's not when we now get a president, we now start to ask all the questions like we did in 2014.
Okay.
Let us ask them now so that we know where we are going as a country. For me, this budget is just imaginary. It's an illusion. There's nothing to it. It's just a yearly ritual, and it's unfortunate.
Well, just as we have also mentioned, I think we mentioned, the fact that right now the sovereign debt of the nation is amounting to about 44.06 trillion naira, and that is aside from the fact that the federal government is also indebted to the CBN to the tune of 22.7 trillion naira through its ways and means window. Remember that we also had the conversation last week as regards them requesting for funds to fund that one, okay, which which some people have said, well, that is actually contradictory to the CBN Act, which stipulates that such facility should not exceed 5% of the previous year's revenue of the government and must be paid within the financial cycle. All right, but then we have had quite some interesting fiscal looks this year or in the past 7 years. So what this basically means is economically speaking, we are just wading in the waters. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Amid high deficit, the president has signed the unreconciled 21.83 trillion naira budget into law. Even with we also have here Obasanjo's endorsement. I didn't mock anyone, only concerned about PDP, and that statement is coming from the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike, also member and leader of the G5. So he has clarified that the intent of his public comment on the endorsement of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi by former president, he said that the endorsement of Obasanjo says a whole lot about who the presidential candidate of the PDP is. That's Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Okay, so the reason why for him saying that, looking at the fact that Atiku was vice president to Obasanjo, so Obasanjo should know more about Atiku, and one would think that so he would endorse his former vice president since they worked together. But now Nyesom Wike is trying to clarify the intent of that particular public statement, saying that what he said just was from concern for the People's Democratic Party. Okay, and he's saying that if Obasanjo did not endorse Atiku, then something is fundamentally wrong, and that members of the PDP should be concerned. That's what that basically is. Meanwhile, Benue State Governor Samuel Otom has praised Obasanjo's endorsement of Peter Obi. Otom, has gone ahead to praise. Yesterday, while we were, in the community platform with presidential candidate Showore, the headline actually came up. It popped up on screen where Samuel Otom backed Obasanjo's endorsement of Peter Obi. But then I just felt that maybe something probably discussed later on as regards what could be happening within the G5. But then on this particular story, as regards Wike saying, his own concern is just for the PDP. Hope the PDP is on the right path, picking Atiku Abubakar, if the person that Atiku Abubakar worked with is not even endorsing him.
Well, politicians are going to continue to try to mess with our brain. I don't know what news is the fact that the former president didn't endorse Atiku. We've always known that if Obasanjo has the opportunity, he would never ever endorse Atiku. He has always pointed out. I think the last time he did it, he was coerced into doing it. I think he had to take Reverend Father Matthew Kuka, Bishop David Oyedepo to intercede before he reluctantly, I would even call that endorsement, maybe he reluctantly mended fences with Atiku. It wasn't even an open endorsement. It was just that we saw photo ops and all of that. And I think he has always mentioned that he doesn't believe in Atiku. They believe Atiku is extremely corrupt. He wrote a book. It was an expose on the character of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. But like I always say, the former president is someone that points fingers at everybody but himself. He's good at doing that. I've read all of his books. I know his egoistic tendencies, the tendency to feel that he knows more than everybody. He's a saint and everybody is a devil. He supports people and brings them down. So I didn't take Obasanjo seriously on anything. And if you listen to Sowore yesterday, he was quite emphatic about it. I agree with Sowore on the fact that Obasanjo has never done anything in the interest of Nigeria, and that's the fact.
All right, thank you for that.
I'm sorry, but that's the fact.
Okay.
So the reality is that we can celebrate it because we are now in a situation where your friend is my friend and your enemy is my enemy. So if Obasanjo is a good one for Wike to throw jabs at Atiku. Again, Autumn endorsing and accepting the endorsement of Obasanjo has shown that at the end of the day, the G5 will all take individual decisions. We may not see a G5 unilaterally collectively endorsing one candidate. It may just be individual governors of the G5 taking their own decision on who to support and follow at the presidential level. So it's just what it is. But I'm saying that Obasanjo is good at pointing fingers at everybody but himself. I will say it again and I will continue to say it. It's a bigger part of the problem Nigeria faces today.
Well, more details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here anxiety as G5 storms Ibadan to declare stance on presidential candidates. So yes, we had that conversation yesterday. I don't know if it was you or Okwe that said, oh, so they remember that they still have their own campaigns to run. But then, yes, they do, apparently, and they are currently on their way to Ibadan, or if not already in Ibadan, to push some sort of support for the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, who is also a member of the G5. So the G5 will tomorrow be in Ibadan to flag off the re-election campaign of one of their members. And they have had some issues, but okay, so apologies. They are saying that they will give direction of where they are going, but they may not mention the name of the presidential candidate to avoid being accused of anti-party offenses and to protect their different political interests. And that is coming from a source. It is coming from a source. It is coming from a source. I don't believe in sources.
What was my prediction?
No, your prediction is not there. No, until I hear it from you.
I predicted this in this. Wait now, Sandra. I said that I predicted it long time ago.
This is from a source.
Not endorse anybody.
This is from a source.
Forget the source. I'm telling you my own thing. That's a group.
Let us wait
for us
them.
To see them sit down and jointly endorse somebody. It will not happen.
Let us wait for them. They said they will give that the source said that they will give direction on where they are going, but they will not mention a name so that they won't be accused of anti-party offenses.
They are just playing games with them. For us to sit down together and say, okay, as a group of G5, we endorse Peter Obi, or we endorse Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, or we endorse Sowore, or we endorse Ashwagbara. It will not happen, Sandra. What we see is they're just making random statements here and there, like a Tom has made. But for them as a group, to endorse one person, you know, go share it.
It's okay.
Unless you want to feel better, yes, the opportunity is there.
I'm not. Let's wait for them to make their own declaration. But more details of this one on page 4. Page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here Ajimobi's ex-chief of staff warns Makinde against aligning with Tinubu. So that's yam pepper everywhere now. So what we have now is that on this particular story, okay, yes, former chief of staff to the late Abiola Ajimobi, who was a former governor of Oyo State, yesterday warned current governor of Oyo State Seyi Makinde against his alleged plan to align with the presidential candidate of the APC. and he cautioned Makinde to learn from what happened to former governors Segun Oshoba, Bisi Akonde, Adebayo Adefarati, Lama Adesina, and Niyi Adebayo when they went into alliance with Obasanjo of the PDP in 2003. Yes. So he said he needs to be very careful that there are rumored alliance of him with Tinubu for the polls in 2023. But then you should learn from those people, hopefully that history will not repeat itself. More details on page 5, whether or not there's going to be an alliance or whether or not they would just, try to do their own thing. But then there are strong indications that Teslim Balogun of the APC in Ibadan seems to be gaining some ground. Folari.
Teslim Folari.
Stadium that came to mind. Teslim Folari. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Teslim Folari of the APC, that's the gubernatorial candidate of the APC in Oyo State, seem to be gaining, strong grounds, some footing in Oyo State. So we wish Seyi Tinubu, Seyi Makinde.
Calm down. Calm down.
We wish Seyi Makinde all the best. No, I don't need water. Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you. Oh my goodness, that was interesting. All right, so let's move on now. Still on the front page of the Guardian, we have Professor Akinyemi at 82 advises youth to vote wisely. All right, so former Minister of External Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, who turns 82 today, has advised Nigerian youth to vote wisely in the forthcoming election, saying that the election is for the youths because they are the future of the country. I just want to ask a question now as we move away from that particular story. Fuad, do you think at this point now that probably the elders of the country, elderly statesmen and whatnot, maybe they should keep their opinions on candidates to themselves and just encourage the youth, do better, encourage do you think that should be the way, rather than saying, okay, I endorse this person or whatnot? What would you say?
Well, it's a two-way thing. It may sound as a form of hypocrisy if they keep quiet on national issues. I agree that it should be vocal. They should talk about issues affecting us. We should know their position on things, and of course talk to the youth to get more involved, since they are the future of the country. But when it comes to endorsement, individual persons with their own style and way of doing things. For example, former President Obasanjo is not the only former military leader or former president that is alive. The others are, Yakubu Gowon is still alive, for example, former general in the army. Former head of state, Babangida is still alive. Abu Salam Abubakar is still alive. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is still alive. And somehow, I think what you've had most of them do is just advise across board, make statements about the country, make statements about where we are, and what we should have as a new direction. But when it comes to endorsement, I can't fault Obasanjo for going all out. He has always been like that. He has always attacked every successor. In the 70s when Shagari took over from him, just a few years down the line, started attacking Shagari. The same thing happened, so he's always like that, and I wouldn't fault him for going down line this time, endorsing someone. Okay. He's within his right, and that's his style, and I think we just allow him to enjoy his right to endorse or not endorse.
Well, more details of Professor Akinyemi's advice to the youths on page 3 of the Guardian. Yes, we also have here Edwin Clark, elder statesman also, joins OBJ, Afenifere, others by endorsing eminently qualified eminently qualified now in quote, and that is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And finally, support local MROs to save economy, $76 million capital flight yearly. That is on page 15 on the business page of the Guardian newspaper. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, and we're looking through the front pages, stories on the front pages of the dailies. We're moving on now to the Nation newspaper, and the major headline there, APC Presidential Campaign Council saying Obi's backing by Obasanjo and Clark weakens PDP. All right. And we have a writer to that says, like similar endorsements in 2019, they will fail, says Kiyamo. Kiyamo is the media spokesperson or spokesman of the APC PCC. All right, and so that's just a reaction to that particular one, saying that the APC is still speaking as regards Obasanjo's endorsement, and also the follow-up of Edwin Clark's endorsement, also of the Labour Party presidential candidates, saying that this endorsement only weakens the People's Democratic Party, and that is that's their own stance.
The APC always maintains that the emergence of Mr. Peter Obi, I'm not saying that's justified, or I don't know what you're saying, but that's their position, that the emergence of Mr. Peter Obi as a Labour Party candidate is a plus to the APC. That what Peter Obi would basically just do is to take away the traditional votes of the PDP from the southeast and then from other parts of the country. The areas that naturally would vote the PDP. And this time they will be voting for Peter Obi, and that basically what will happen is that the PDP will suffer the most, while the APC will take advantage of the votes of the PDP that will be depleted by the emergence of Mr. Peter Obi in the Labour Party. That so they think it's a plus for them. They think it's an opportunity for them to win the elections, as the PDP will be weakened by Mr. Peter Obi's ambition. But again, we wait to see. We have some few days, I think about 50 days to the elections.
Yes.
And we all know where we're going.
All right, thank you. Now let's move on from that one. More details on page 4. We also have here why 23.7 trillion naira CBN loan must be restructured by Buhari as the president signs the 21.83 appropriation bill into law. Okay. And this is on page 5. We've already talked about that, and the fact that this particular ways and means funds will probably or will further compound the country's ballooning debt crisis. But then get all the details. On page 5 of the Nation, the president seems to be trying to give some sort of credence to it. But let's move on. Tinubu deserves credit for Lagos transformation, and that's coming from the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and saying that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the APC presidential candidate, is the brain behind the development master plan being implemented by successive administrations in Lagos State. All right, and that is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Whether or not anyone is going to bite into that.
Let me give comments on that.
Yele Goshan, what do you have to say about that?
All right. Well, anyways, I know that we wouldn't expect Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, to say anything different. He's been around, he's been running around with the presidential candidate of the APC. In fact, there are people who feel he has even abandoned his duty as governor of the state. And has become more of a PA, personal assistant to the candidate of the APC. But yes, we must say that somehow, 1999, when Asiwaju became governor, he created roadmaps. There were things that he would say were his own vision for what Lagos should be. Even though his own 8 years as governor was more of fighting with the federal government, he had too many politics to play. If you remember at that time, that was when we were seeing billboards in different parts of Lagos saying, "Oh, please bear with us, this road belongs to the federal government." So in terms of performance, really, when it comes to physical things, infrastructure and tangible things, you wouldn't say Asiwaju did very well in the 8 years. But when it comes to politics and holding on to the southwest and then all of that, I think it was more, he performed very well in that regard. I think Fashola came and then we saw what we could say was real governance in Lagos from 1999 till today. But I think it's just important that people understand that you can't continue to give all the credit for what Lagos is doing now to Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. There were governors after him. What would you now say of Fashola? What would you say of Maybe Ambody? A lot of people have said did very well, other than the fact that the politicians within the APC did just like his face. And then, we may also want to ask ourselves, with all of the potentials of Lagos, the revenue Lagos makes and everything that comes to Lagos, are we really where we are supposed to be? Is it the ideal model city that we should have in Lagos? Yes, Lagos is a mega city, but is it a functional mega city? What are the quality of roads we have? What is the living standard, the ease of doing business? Lagos has more potential and should be doing more than what it is doing. And so I think the government needs to understand that whatever they are doing now is just a bit cosmetic, and they should understand that Lagosians deserve more. Not for them to begin to dance around because they commit. I still went to inspect the rail project that they did a test for recently. They've not completed that thing. The test run was just for campaign. I went there over the weekend and I saw the whole thing. What is still ongoing? The rush to test run was just for campaigns and for the optics. So they should stop deceiving the people and get straight to business and do the right things for Lagosians. Lagos deserves better.
It's okay. It's all right. So more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Whether or not Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is responsible for the growth and development or transformation of Lagos State, and looking back at the fact that Lagos had, some very credible leaders way before him. I'm talking of Lateef Jakonde, Murtala Mohammed. Sorry, not Murtala Mohammed. I don't know where that came from. Buba Marwa. Buba Marwa. Yeah. Yes. These guys, they did very well. They did very well as governors of Lagos and military administrators. So I don't know, but then more details on page 4. That's Governor Sanwo-Olu's perspective. And let's keep moving now. We also have police recover body of murdered couple's son from Ogun River. That's on page 2. We had that conversation for last week or earlier in the week as regards the couple that came back from watch night service, and then they were burnt in their child was missing. So apparently the child was thrown into a river close to the house, and they found the body of the child. This is an assassination of the entire family. Yes. So hopefully the investigations will be ongoing on that particular one. Now we have here also why Ondo workers are yet to get December salary. That's coming from Akere Dolu. Yes. Okay. So he. But it is celebrate Christmas. Oh, very unfortunate. But then let's see what exactly is the reason that is being given on that particular one. So Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu has explained why he did not pay workers December salary. He said he paid salary up to November, but that the December salary was delayed following an advice from labor leaders that workers needed money to meet the New Year's financial obligations. Wait, though. What kind of so he wants to pay it together with. Okay, so wait. I'm getting here now, and I'm quoting. As you are aware, you received 3 alerts in December. We paid October and November salary in December. You also received leave bonus. We would have paid December salary, but labor leaders advised that we delay it till January to allow you meet financial obligations, as students will resume soon and all of that. Also, we inherited 7-month salary arrears. We've paid 6. Before I leave office, I will pay the remaining 1. And that is his explanation as regards non-payment of December salaries. So apparently he paid 2 salaries, 2-month salaries in December. Then he withheld December so that he can pay it with January so that the money can be. The 2 months he paid salary was owing now. Was he not owing? That was the money he was owing now. You don't understand what I'm saying. What he should have done is to pay the December salary. And if he feels concerned about the financial obligations of his workers in January, he should pay early. Yes. The beginning of the month. Stop owing. Instead of you understand, the guy was owing. That's what I'm saying. Yes. You have 1 minute remaining. I'm with you. To tell me some of this government, you think people are dumb. Labor leaders advised you. What are the labor leaders that advised you? So if you're not going to pay January salary now, because if you pay in December and January, what will now happen to January salary? You pay that in February. You pay February in March. It's just for January, though. They say so that they can have, because there's a lot of financial obligations. Responsible statement to make. You don't owe anybody. They should pay people as and when you simple as ABC. Are they not collecting their own emoluments and allowances and things at the right time? Are they owing them and themselves? So you want so it is the salary of the workers that they be paying ping-pong with. You owe because you think that in January they will need money. What you do is to pay December, and then in January, if you think, oh, you want to help them when they have financial obligation, pay that early, or probably even give them some extras on it. That's why they said it's called 13 months. All right. Well, more details on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here doctor shot dead. That's on page 2. So apparently there's a follow-up on that particular story. A medical doctor has been murdered in a private hospital in Delta State after agreed relatives of a patient who died from gunshot wound allegedly shot him dead. All right. And then we also have some other, we also have some other stories. But then there's now an update on that particular one. What we are hearing now is that a woman allegedly came into the hospital to receive treatment and saying that she was having abdominal pains. So while the doctor was attending to her, she allegedly received a call telling her relatives to please come and pay her hospital bills, that she's in the hospital, that they should come, she's in the hospital, they should come and pay. So the supposed or alleged relatives now came in, shot the doctor, and then both the supposed patient and the relatives can't be found. Now they all fled the scene. That's another version of the story that we're getting. So
the police will be on their trail. They should be arrested for murder. Simple as ABC. The story of patient or no patient, come and pay my due. He has killed somebody. He's a madman. They should just arrest him and prosecute him for murder. Simple as ABC. Details
on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. All right, and now we also have here above the masthead: elections. Oyo PDP crisis widens. Makinde pro-Atiku group test their strengths, and that's on page 4. So obviously some factions going ahead and supporting the presidential candidate of the PDP as in the Oyo State PDP, and then you have Seyi Makinde trying to do his own campaigns in the state for a second term as governor of Oyo State. So you can get all of the details of that on page 4 of the Nation newspaper.
Sandra.
Okay. Sorry?
Sandra. Another problem with the G5 is
very briefly, please.
As governors of the PDP, just 30 seconds. As governors of the PDP, they have PDP members that are not satisfied with them, that they have shown the fight and are not really happy with what is happening in the state as far as the governors are concerned. So it's an opportunity for them to pitch their tent, those dissatisfied members, to pitch their tent to the presidential candidate to fight these governors. So we are going to be battling not just at people. We are going to be members of the PDP in their state that are not happy with them. So it's a very risky game that they are playing. But again, like I said, few days to election, everybody will know where it is.
All right, that's on page 4. Moving on now, we also have here INEC to Nigerians: be wary of fake ad hoc officials. So there's a story going on that INEC is recruiting ad hoc officials, and INEC has come out to debunk that, saying that there's no recruitment ongoing at the moment. Their recruitment website has been shut down, so Nigerians should be careful. INEC is not recruiting ad hoc officials. More details on page 6. And finally, on the Nation newspaper: Air Peace targets expansion to UK, India, Israel, and others. And that's on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. All right, now very quickly we'll run through what we have trending on the front page of the Punch, and the major headline there: PVCs 6.7 million uncollected in 17 states. INEC targets markets. And then right after that, we have INEC moves to increase voter card pickup in states, plans massive sensitization. We also have here 14,000 people collect PVCs daily in Lagos. Yaga Africa laments poor awareness. So is it that not enough people are aware that they can go out to pick up their PVC, despite the fact that INEC announced collection window for PVC that will start in December 12, 2022 and will end January 22nd, 2023, and there's a development in between from 6th of January to 15th of January where you can go and pick up from your wards. All right, but then what we have now is that there's the turnout is low. Basically, the turnout is low with the different concerns actually as regards the particular one. We have here the PDP describing this particular situation as a dangerous precedent, which he said smacked of mischief by the APC. I don't know how that is coming in, but then He said it's an APC thing. Saying that it's a confirmation that we are tilting towards a dangerous precedent. The fact that less than 6 weeks to the election, over 7 million PVCs have not been collected leaves much to be desired. Okay, and then you have APGA also coming in and saying that a number of them would have collected the cards before the election, but awareness is being created across board. So basically they will need to do more as regards voters apathy. Okay, and then we also have here the Obidati campaign director general is also saying that there needs to be investigation to unravel the reasons behind unclaimed PVCs, saying that of course we should be worried, but then there will always be uncollected PVCs, but it is not good for democracy. So it is important that we investigate what is the reason for people not going to pick up their PVC despite going to register. It's something that needs to be looked into. And they also went further.
I agree with your big campaign. Yeah,
All right, it's something.
If we just think awareness, if we just think about our awareness, again, if you are so aware to go and register, I think you should be aware to go pick up your PVC.
Exactly.
So we need to now ask ourselves, why are people not picking up their PVC? Because if it's about awareness, like I said, if you can take all the things to go and register, if you are aware about the election, and then you should be worried and aware to also go and collect your PVC. So what is happening? Is it about logistics? Is there any is it a deliberate attempt by some people to sabotage the process so that people don't get their PVC?
That's another line, because that's another line that the DG of Obidati campaign is saying that it could be that some parties are deliberately creating barriers to the collection in some locations where they know they are weak. So it's important that we need to investigate why are people not collecting their PVCs. All right. INEC is saying that they are making efforts. They said they are taking advantage of cultural events, going to major markets, using loudspeakers to talk to market women and leaders that have influence, to come and pick up their PVCs. It's very, very important. Okay, so INEC is saying that they are doing all they can. They are putting out the information out there, but then some people are also blaming what we call the Nigerian last minute syndrome, saying that people usually wait for the last minute in Nigeria to go
last minute,
and pick up their PVCs.
Don't be surprised that 3 or 4 days to the close of this collection now, you will see everywhere filled up.
That there should be an extension. Yes, exactly. We saw it for the registration.
On the registration. So that's another thing. But I would also think that maybe I should just activate the word collection now. They just start the word collection instead of waiting till.
All right, and finally we also have here. If there's anyone out there who thinks that maybe PVC collection location is distant from people is a reason, well, it's coming to the wards by Friday, 6th of January. So hopefully that would make things easier for people to go out there and pick up their PVC. You have between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Mondays through Sundays. Now, moving on, more details of that on page 2 as regards uncollected PVCs. We still have 6.7 million, almost 7 million uncollected PVCs. Is a source of concern, actually. More details on page 2 on the Punch newspaper. We also have here ASU protests as federal government withhold union dues. So that's still another issue. But the story is on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here reps warn EFCC against selling assets to looters. That's another thing. That's on page 15 of the Punch newspaper. And then we also have here railway debt servicing gulps 246 billion naira. That's on page 21. We'll see what exactly is that. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, China COVID-19. Federal government fears spread. 16 countries impose restrictions. Stories on page 8. And if I'm wondering if our federal government is fearing spread, what are they doing? Thank you for that. Very valid question. All right, I didn't get that. Because I mean, if there's concern or there's worry that it could come in here, why are we waiting till it gets to a worrisome situation before we do something. Why not be proactive rather than
I sent the link to you yesterday, Sandra.
Yes, I saw it. I read it, and I said, as it should be. You know,
countries
are doing something. Okay.
And what they're basically doing is that they're insisting that anybody come from China must be tested. People are ready.
That's it, as it should be. Finally, from Vanguard newspaper now, we're going to go through. We see major headline here. Federal government risks paying 1.8 trillion naira interest on 23.7 trillion naira loan. That's still as regards the ways and means from the CBN. And then we also have riders. Presidency emphasizes need to restructure loan. 2023 budget. Poverty, unemployment, rising debt profile. Others not likely to change. More details on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. We also have here, second Niger bridge. I had no altercation with OBJ. Obi of Onitsha counters presidency. So remember that in presidency's response to Obasanjo's letter as regards the performance of this administration, there were some, claims and allegations and all of that that the presidency was putting out there. One of which was there were issues between the president and Obi of Onitsha, which delayed the second Niger bridge. But then this particular story is from the Obi of Onitsha himself saying, "Oh, I had no altercation with OBJ." Well, you can get the details on page 31 of Vanguard newspaper. Now, we also have here Obaseki, Diri, Okowa strategized on presidential election. That's on page 8. Tinubu, brain behind modern Lagos, says Sanwo-Olu. That's on page 10. How I escaped death. That's coming from ex-Imo State Governor Ohakim. That's on page 6. And we also have here Apapa Oshodi traffic chaos, unending tales of pain, tears, and lamentations. That's on page 28.
And that was the modern Lagos we are talking about.
Yes, so it's part of it. It's part of it. Maybe they're still working, so they've not gotten to Oshodi. Or Apapa Oshodi.
We should continue to work.
Soon get there.
Okay, I hear you.
You know, the interesting thing is that Apapa Oshodi road, they cut off a lot of a large chunk of the road on the pretext that they are doing construction on that road, and that was going on for almost 2 years. And then the cutoff is still there, but the road has not been fixed, and that's why you see on that particular road there's a lot of people taking one way because of that cutoff. And that's why you have accidents. Trailers are falling. Exactly. That's why you have accidents on that road. So I don't know what exactly the plans are being put in place, for that particular one. But more details on page 28 of Vanguard newspaper. And that is all that we have on trends in the papers for this morning, the 3rd of January 2023 on 98.3 Mainland FM. We'll be back by 8:40. For Mainland Focus, where we will introduce one or two of the trending stories, put some spotlight on it, open up the phone line for you to be a part of the conversation. All right, so stay with us, don't go anywhere. We will be right back.